USS Ronald Reagan deployed today to the South China Sea for the second time in 2 weeks. The deployment comes as tension with China in the region are rising. Earlier this week, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo railed against China's illegal territorial claims in the South China Sea. Pompeo said this: "The world will not allow Beijing to treat the South China Sea as its maritime empire. We stand with the international community in defense of freedom of the seas and respect for sovereignty and reject any push to impose might makes right in the South China Sea or the wider region." The fire is out on the ship, the USS Bonhomme Richard, after burning for 4 days. The Navy has not figured out what caused the fire. An investigation, we're told, will take weeks. 63 people were treated for heat exhaustion, smoke inhalation. No one injured seriously. The Navy says the ship is salvageable after all, but won't say whether the ship will be repaired quite yet. Joining us tonight is Congressman Ted Yoho. He's a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, a co-sponsor of the Hong Kong Autonomy Act that President Trump signed into law Tuesday, which requires mandatory sanctions against businesses and individuals that help facilitate China's takeover of Hong Kong. Congressman, great to see you again and to have you on the broadcast. The carriers being deployed again to the South China Sea is a very clear statement. Your thought about what will be required to reverse what has been a dominant role for China militarily in the South China Sea for literally more than a decade.
Exactly what President Trump is doing is what needs to be done, Lou. Under the previous administrations, in particular President Obama, he stopped what we call FONAPs, freedom of navigation of the sea. And he went to what we call peaceful navigation, which is just sailing through an area other. And so with the FONAPs, we are going in there with our military ships. We are doing military exercise like we've done for the last 30 years. And that was relaxed under President Obama. Make no mistake, this president, President Trump, means what he says. And it's not just us doing this. We are partnering with other nations to do these exercises. And I think this is the message that needs to be sent with the aggression that China is doing in the South China Sea.
Well, as you know, China has built artificial islands in the Spratlys, the Parcels, all in dispute. And China has pushed aside its neighbors in the region. China is in some cases 1,500 miles. Its territorial limit is 1,500 miles from those islands.
Right.
What are we going to do about that? Because in every instance, they put in missile emplacements, landing strips. They're armed to the teeth, and obviously mean to stay there.
This is what the world needs to understand. Other countries, they need to understand this. The citizens need to understand this. Anytime you buy a product made in China, you're empowering the Chinese Communist Party and their military. China has overstepped their boundaries. As you pointed out, they've ventured over 1,000 miles from their homeland, claiming territorial lands. And sometimes that land is within 20 miles from another country. And so when they did that to the Philippines and they went into their exclusive economic zone, the Philippines took them to the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague in 2016. The Philippines won that case hands down and said China had no claim to that. Yet China ignored that. And then, as you pointed out, they're building these artificial land masses, and I refuse to call them islands because islands denote something that you can own. China is dredging up and damaging the coral reefs over 4,000 acres. And it's interesting, Luke, when President Xi Jinping was in the Rose Garden with President Obama in 2015, he said they had no intention of militarizing those islands. Yet today, they have airports, runways that can accommodate military fighters. There's barracks for personnel. There's offensive and defensive weapons, and there's military-grade radar systems. You cannot trust Xi Jinping or the Communist Party because they lie all the time about this. And this is where Donald Trump is standing up to them. And I'll make a prediction. you're going to see other nations stand locked arms with us and telling China, enough is enough, you have no claims here.
Yeah, it's. I want to turn to obviously our allies, Taiwan, Japan, in the region as well.
Sure.
With the threat of invasion against Taiwan, constant and repeated throughout by China. Are we doing enough for Taiwan? Are we doing enough for Japan, for South Korea, for all of those countries to stop China's aggressive expansionary demeanor and attitude in the region?
With South Korea and Japan and the United States, we're doing enough. That trilateral arrangement, that agreement between those three countries, that is one of the strongest relationships in national security. Are we doing enough with Taiwan? No. Since Henry Kissinger days and forward, there's been strategic ambiguity about our policies between Taiwan and China. We are introducing a bill next week, and it's going to be called the Taiwan Invasion Prevention Act. And this is something that's going to lay very clear what our intent is. In fact, it'll go to the point where it authorizes an AUMF if China invades Taiwan, and it'll be a sunset for 5 years, that AUMF, that would authorize the president to use force. Right now, our agreement, and this came out of Ronald Reagan's presidency, is that we would sell Taiwan enough weapons for them to defend themselves. But when Xi Jinping has announced that he's ready to draw blood over Taiwan and reunify them, they forgot to ask Taiwan. Taiwan's never been part of the PRC, nor do they want to. And so there needs to be peaceful negotiations, and we'll see how this pans out.